minimum wage. Yeah!
Its chair, Rebecca Friend, arguing against the proposition, the president and CEO of the Goldwater Institute, Darcy Olson. Rebecca, let's start with you. Why the need, in the view of the coalition, for a minimum wage initiative?
Well, we had been trying at the legislature for the past 4 years to even obtain hearings on a bill raising the minimum wage, and we were unsuccessful. And also, as you've seen, Congress has refused to do anything for the past 10 years. So we decided to take the initiative to the voters and see what they thought about it.
Darcy, as I understand, the Institute doesn't actually take a position on the initiative as such, but there are concerns that the Institute has with a minimum wage increase or state version of that. Tell us what they are.
Right. Well, I think where Rebecca and I definitely agree that this is a moral issue, and no one likes the idea that you can work hard in America and still be poor. No one likes that. And the question on the table is a minimum wage increase the way to solve that problem? This is a 30% increase in the minimum wage for the state of Arizona, and I can tell you that if my payroll at the Goldwater Institute were a small business and it went up 30%, it would be great for the workers I could keep and pay that extra 30%, but I couldn't keep paying everybody. And some people, I'd either have to cut benefits, reduce hours, or there would be jobs cut. And the best estimates in Arizona show that we could lose up to 9,000 jobs if this were implemented. So while the people who retain their jobs would be earning a higher wage, the trade-off to that is the number of people who would no longer be employed or the jobs that would not be created. So that is a cause for concern.
So, Rebecca,
yes.
What Darcy was talking about is what you do here in opposition to minimum wage increases, whether at the federal or state level, and that is that it impacts mostly small businesses and that the very people it's intended to benefit suffer because they won't be able to get jobs. What do you say to that?
Well, this is an issue about hardworking Arizonans, people who are working 40 hours a week and still not making enough to be above the poverty limit. In the initiative, you will see an exemption for businesses, small businesses with over $500,000 a year. This will not impact them. There are no significant studies that show an impact or a negative job loss. This will become a war of stats and studies. And what we're trying to keep focused on is the people who will mostly benefit, the 145,000 working Arizonans who will benefit.
Darcy?
Yeah, if I may, on this idea that there is no evidence that this will cause job loss, I mean, Chairman of the Federal Reserve, former Chairman of the Federal Reserve, Alan Greenspan said overwhelmingly that evidence is overwhelming that the minimum wage does destroy jobs. And as I said, if that weren't the case, why would we stop at $6.75? Why not make it $8, $10, $20? Why not $1,000 an hour? Well, because there is a point that employers, they only have so much that they can pay, and eventually it will cut in, and they can't afford it. So you can't repeal the law of supply and demand as much as we'd like to. So again, it's a trade-off. You can raise some people up more, but the trade-off is that other folks will lose their jobs. And again, the estimate in Arizona is up to 9,000 jobs, and so that's a pretty serious trade-off. The most recent coming out of the Cleveland Fed and the consensus estimate is that for every 10% increase, you're going to have a 1 to 2% loss in jobs. So we said, I mean, what if your payroll here went up 30%? Something's got to give. It assumes that there's a profit margin in these companies of that much, and most companies just simply don't operate with those kinds of profit margins. The minimum wage issue is that in Arizona, a lot of employers that traditionally paid the minimum wage, places like Burger King and Wendy's, is that they actually have to pay higher than the minimum wage because they can't attract workers because the economy is doing so well. So a lot of these places you think of as paying the minimum wage are actually paying more. In other words, the market will dictate and employers will pay what people are worth to that place of business.
So, Rebecca, who actually will benefit from this? If McDonald's and Wendy's are already paying above the minimum wage, who's going to benefit?
Well, I think the range of workers who are making at minimum wage or below is huge, including daycare workers, nursing home health care people, some food service, certainly. But I think we need to get back to the issue. While we're arguing economics, we're talking about 140 145,000 working Arizonans who are fulfilling their part of the contract, which is to work 40 hours a week and try to make a living for their family, who will benefit from this on.
Well, I think most folks would say that a job, any job, even if it's low paying, is better than no job at all. And of course, that is the trade-off that we're talking about here. You can't get these increases in a vacuum.
And let's talk about who is getting minimum wage. 74% are over the age of 20. 58% are women, and a third of those are primary wage earners in the family. That's the population we're talking about. The assumption that this is a starting wage or where everybody goes on to greater things is not true. That is not the real world. The fact that these people are living in poverty and trying to support their families is not fair, it's not just, and this is one way of addressing that.
Great moments in minimum wage. The year was 2006. Maria Ramirez was having a terrible week. Her boyfriend had skipped town, leaving her to take care of 3 babies. But before Maria could clean up her mess, she was contractually obligated to clean someone else's. As the clock struck midnight, she was still cleaning up at CAA, the result of a multi-million 3-picture deal. Having been sober for 11 years, Maria looked past the stale backwash and lipstick stain and let nothing go to waste. She scraped together some cheese that had fallen on the floor and meat that had been sitting out for hours and called it a night. Great moments in minimum wage.